Good morning and welcome to PuckTime on WagerTalk TV. It is Thursday, January 16th, and I am Andrew. I've got Carmine and Bryan with me to break down three games, prop sides, totals, best bets, and all kinds of promos right here at WagerTalk.com. Carm, it was a really small day yesterday in the NHL, so as we've been doing lately, we remove those days from PuckTime, and we make sure we come back heavy with a really big card. So a lot of pressure on you with all these games to pick some good games for us to talk about. Which games did you decide on for us today?
Yeah, and I conferred with you on these ones, Andrew. I wanted to make sure that you liked today's card as well, too. So we are going to talk about um, Florida and Detroit. We got to talk about the Detroit Red Wings, of course. They're on a very good run. Washington and Ottawa. Ottawa back to being on a good run after getting back from the West Coast. 3 straight wins for them. You're going to do your prop playlist. We are going to finish it off with the Edmonton Oilers in Colorado. The Oilers 7-1 their last 8 games, playing some very good hockey and some very good defensive hockey, which we'll also discuss, and some best bets. And hopefully we get you guys out of here with some winners. And speaking of winners, we have Bryan Leonard here, man. Bryan, we were just talking about before the show and before we hop right into this first game with Florida. I said that the Sabres managed to do something in the third period yesterday in their upset win against Carolina that they haven't done. I haven't seen done. And then you reminded me that there was one. The Sabres scored a goal in the third period, but had 0 shots on goal. You never see that happen, but it's one of those ones where you score in your own net, and it goes back to the last guy who touched the puck. You were at a game with the Vegas Golden Knights where that happened.
I was, and you were the first person that I text. I said, how the hell do you score a goal without a shot on goal? And now we see it again. Yeah, it's a strange sport. We've talked about in the past how lucky this sport is, and which makes underdogs something that I'd like to play. But yeah, you don't see it very often. In fact, talking about the Knights the other day, they played Nashville. They went 34 minutes, had 3 shots on goal. It's a strange time in the NHL when you're getting into the heat of the moment halfway through the season now. So you see teams taking days off. We just got to be able to take advantage of those.
And Bryan, we don't have Vegas on today's card, but you did mention last week, and I think even the week before that to keep an eye on the Vegas Golden Knights and their upcoming schedule. Elaborate on that just a little bit before we hop into this Florida game.
Yeah, they had been playing very well, but they had played nobody. It was all easy schedule. The entire month of December was basically at home. And I said that they're an overrated team last week when I was on the show, and they go 1-3. I believe they were favored in every single game. And now, as Andrew pointed out before the show, they've got a lot of tough opponents coming up. So, yeah, don't get overly excited if you're a Vegas Golden Knights fan, as we're about to lose first place to Edmonton, who's on a roll, and they're overall the better team. So it's been a good season so far, and I can't complain about my hometown team, but we got the next week or so. It's going to be some tough games on the schedule.
Yeah. Guys, it's Bryan Leonard. He's the Vegas guy. He's the one talking about the Vegas Golden Knights and not being as good as they've shown. So don't throw any heat mine and Andrew's way. Just throw it towards Bryan. But he's got his pulse on this team's finger. Speaking of pulse, Andrew, and I'm going to go to you first on this one. The Florida Panthers showed a little bit of pulse in their last game, getting a win. But my God, Detroit, they get their first loss in what seems like weeks for this team. They've been on a good run under their new coach. Ville Husso was in goal for that one, and he just couldn't stop anything. He couldn't have stopped a beach ball. But minus 250 here for Florida in this one. Right now it's trending because Alex Lyon looks like he's still dealing with an injury. It looks like it could be Cam Talbot. But my God, if it's Ville Husso in goal tonight, Detroit, even at plus 200, doesn't look attractive. Where are you going with this one?
You know, guys, it's funny because there was a point in time where I stopped caring as much about starting goaltenders and was more about the team. And I find this season in particular, it really is important going from one goaltender to the next. Look at a team like the Ottawa Senators. When Allmark went down, they looked pretty bad without him. And then now all of a sudden they have a goaltender that's really stepped up and he's playing well for them. And especially for these brink teams, like the fringe playoff teams, maybe Colorado was already a good team. Then they got a good goalie, and now they're a great, great team. But some of these fringe teams, you need a good, reliable goaltender. Detroit, I kind of worry about that with them. Busy schedule, guys. I hear for the Florida Panthers. We talk about them on Monday. They go ahead and play on Tuesday. Again, busy game for them, busy schedule. But 4-3 loss, and people like to look at fading teams second half of a back-to-back, but it's also one of those situations where, hey, if they lose the first game, maybe you want to look at them on the second half of a back-to-back. They get it done in a shootout fashion. So it's definitely been busy and kind of an exhausting run here. But look, I'm here to say that I really believe in the coach's bump mentality and the coach's bump aspect. There's no doubt about it. But I try and remind people this all the time. Look at St. Louis. They're probably one of the teams that actually had to play the toughest teams after their coach got fired. There were still some decent teams mixed in there. I remember when Boston fired Montgomery, their first win and first game after that was a 5% play for me on the Bruins against Utah. I mean, you look at this Detroit team, they lose to the Maple Leafs their first game after firing their coach. Then they go ahead and beat the Penguins. They beat the Blue Jackets. They beat the Hawks. They're playing against teams like the Kraken. Yeah, sure, they just lost to the Sharks, but there's been some easier opponents, guys. I'm not saying everything has been a breeze for them, but we got to slow the roll here on the Red Wings, all right? They've had some good games against the Caps and some other talented teams, but we can't sit up here and say that they have been out here against the best of the best, the most elite competition. It's so nice how it works out for fans that when they fire their coach, they think this team has magically just has an all-star team. Well, they're playing better and they're playing more inspired. And I like Todd McClellan, but at the same time, I do think there's still issues with them defensively. Florida, sure, they might be a little bit gassed. It's a lot of games for them in a short period of time. But I missed on Monday when I gave out the play and it was plus 100. Now I got to lay minus 120, but I'm going to take this Florida team total over. I think this game overall could go full game over, but I will isolate the favorite, get that price down even more, and take the home team to get the job done over their team total. Brian, do you agree with me that although this Red Wings team is playing well, they've certainly taken advantage of some advantageous spots that they've been given?
Yeah, they definitely have. And despite the 7-1 run as of late, they still got a long way to go before they're respectable. If you take a look at their 5-on-5 expected goal share this season, they still sit at 46.15, which is fifth worst in the league. As comparison, you got a Florida team at 53.65. So you've got 7.5 point percentage difference in goal share for Florida playing at home against this Detroit team. The Panthers have a net goal advantage of 26 on the season between the two, and Detroit has still played 3 more home games than what Florida has played. So don't get overly excited about Detroit here. The Red Wings are about to start a real tough 4-game road trip. Tampa Bay, Dallas, and Philadelphia. And although Philadelphia is not winning, they are dominating goal share, and they're playing very well. They just can't get that victory out there. So they're still a team that you got to be really scared about. First meeting of the season between these two, and my only concern is Florida has dropped 6 out of the last 10. Defense has been solid, but they haven't been able to generate the offense like they did earlier in the season. Florida's clearly the better team, but it's hard to lay this type of number the way they're playing. I'm with you. I think Detroit's a little bit overrated, but we're catching a Florida team that maybe with all this extra time in hockey in the playoffs they played the last couple of years, you're going to find teams like that where they find a spot during the season where they just don't have it. And Florida has been that way as of late. Like I said, they've dropped 6 out of the last 10. Don't want to lay a $2 favorite here with Florida. But again, don't want any part of Detroit.
What about you, Carm?
Well, I don't blame you. I don't blame Brian at all. I'm never laying 250. I don't even think I want to play the puck line on this one. Detroit actually has a very good number or they've been profitable to put it to the puck line. This is one of my 20 minutes and out kind of games. I'm going to take the first period over in this one because I agree. I think we're going to see some goals in this one. Detroit 7-3 their last 10 to the first period over, 7-3 on the road as well too to the first period over. And you have a Florida team off a win on the road, a hard fought win against the Devils, returning home. At some point, they're going to turn it on. Whether it's here or not remains to be seen. This is one of those ones where I think the VIG would increase on both the game total and the first period total if we somehow saw Ville Husso named to be in goal. It's showing Cam Talbot everywhere. And Brian mentioned that road trip, this road trip for Detroit. They have back-to-back games coming up against Tampa Bay and then Dallas. So unless Alex Line is healthy, that it's going to be Cam Talbot in one of those, Ville Husso in the other. So you're going to want to. This is one of those times where you're going to want to be looking at goalies because there are some goalie dependent plays. But I like the first period over in this one, Andrew, minus 120 on the 1.5. So that's where I'm going to go on this one. Watch opening 20 minutes and then switch because there's so many good games tonight that I really like that I can quickly turn this one off once they get the 2 goals and move on. But speaking of good games, Brian, Washington and Ottawa. Washington comes back from the West Coast. They proceed to lose to the Buffalo Sabres at home in their first game at home.